This landlord walked into court acting calm and confident, but minutes later, Judge Judy destroyed her entire case with one police report. The courtroom was silent as Miss Sims sat nervously at the plaintiff's table, clutching a folder stuffed with photographs, police reports, and handwritten notes. Across from her sat her former landlord, Miss Shea, arms crossed, expression cold, absolutely convinced she was about to win. At first glance, the case seemed simple. A landlord kept a tenant's $300 security deposit after the tenant moved out. Nothing unusual there, but within minutes, the story unraveled into accusations of illegal entry, abandoned property, missing electronics, a locked-out tenant, an abandoned dog, and a television allegedly riddled with bullet holes. And by the time Judge Judy reached her verdict, one woman would leave with $900, while the other left humiliated on national television. Miss Sims had rented the small private house for about 18 months. Life inside the home was crowded but manageable. She lived there with her 3 children, her grandson, and a longtime family friend she referred to as her nephew. Months later, her grandson's father also moved in from California. The rent for the house was $950 a month. Everyone pitched in. The roommate paid $400. The grandson's father paid another $400. Utilities were split between everyone living there. Judge Judy immediately noticed the math didn't quite add up. So basically, Judge Judy said sharply, "You and your children were living there for about $150. The courtroom chuckled awkwardly, but the tension quickly shifted when the conversation turned toward the move-out date. Ms. Sims explained that she paid the full rent for November 2014. She insisted she still had legal possession of the property through November 30th. Even though she and her family had already begun moving belongings to another house nearby. According to her, the move was gradual. They moved things back and forth over several days while cleaning the property. But the landlord had a very different version of events. Miss Shea claimed the property looked abandoned. Utilities had allegedly been turned off. Trash was everywhere. A dog was left alone inside. And worst of all, she claimed the tenants secretly changed the locks without giving her a key. Believing the home had been abandoned, Miss Shea entered the property on November 20th, 10 days before the lease officially ended. That was the moment everything spiraled out of control. Judge Judy's eyes narrowed immediately. "You didn't own it until November 30th, she snapped. She paid rent through the 30th. You had no right to go inside on the 20th. The landlord tried defending herself. She said she entered because she feared the property was abandoned and wanted to rescue the dog inside. According to her, the utilities were off, the place was trashed, and she didn't know who kept coming and going from the home, but Miss Sims fired back instantly. The dog wasn't abandoned. Her nephew, the family friend who lived there, was still staying at the house temporarily while waiting for his apartment to become ready. He had been feeding and caring for the dog. And that wasn't all, Miss Sims claimed that after entering the house early, the landlord disposed of several valuable belongings before the tenants finished moving out. A flat-screen television, a PlayStation 3, a basketball hoop, a baby glider rocker, a weight bench with weights, backyard fencing. Even though Miss Sims said they left notes explaining they were still returning daily to clean and retrieve their property, the landlord allegedly began removing things anyway. The courtroom became tense. Judge Judy turned to Miss Shea. "Did you take a flat-screen television?" The landlord hesitated before answering. There was a bullet-ridden TV abandoned in the house. The audience reacted immediately. A bullet-ridden television. Now everyone was paying attention. Shea claimed the TV looked damaged beyond repair, so she instructed a worker to place it on the curb for scrappers to take away. But Miss Sims denied the story completely. Yes, the television had a small crack. No, it was not destroyed. And no, nobody had permission to throw it away. Judge Judy pressed harder. "Did you take the PlayStation?" "No, Your Honor," Miss Shea replied. "I only saw a small blue plastic piece." Then came the basketball hoop. The landlord admitted she still had it. The weight bench, still in storage. The fencing? Yes. She kept that too, because she considered it permanent property. The more she spoke, the worse things became. It sounded less like abandoned junk, and more like a landlord helping herself to a tenant's belongings before the lease had legally ended. Still, Judge Judy wasn't fully convinced. The house photos showed trash, clutter, and damage. The walls had holes. The carpets were filthy. Cleanup clearly needed to happen. The landlord argued that the security deposit barely covered the mess, and for a brief moment, it looked like the case might go either way. Then Judge Judy asked for the police reports. That single request changed everything. The courtroom fell silent as Judge Judy carefully reviewed the documents. One report revealed that police officers had already informed Miss Sims she legally had until the end of November to finish moving out. Another report confirmed that Miss Shea entered the home early because she believed it was abandoned. But the third report destroyed the landlord's case completely. Judge Judy read directly from the officer's notes. Landowner stated she would take responsibility for missing property from inside the residence that included a basketball goal, a flat-screen television, and a PlayStation. The courtroom exploded with tension. There it was, in writing. The landlord herself had admitted responsibility for the missing items. Miss Shea's face dropped instantly. All of her earlier explanations suddenly collapsed. The abandoned property argument no longer mattered. The bullet-ridden TV excuse no longer mattered. She had already acknowledged responsibility to police. Judge Judy leaned forward. "This makes my life much easier." The landlord tried one final time to point toward the damage left inside the house. She held up photographs showing trash, holes in walls, and clutter. Judge Judy didn't care anymore. "I don't know what they would have cleaned between the 20th and the 30th, she said firmly, "because you went in prematurely. That was the fatal mistake." Had the landlord waited until the lease officially ended, she might have legally justified withholding part of the security deposit for damages and cleaning. Instead, by entering early and disposing of property before the tenancy expired, she undermined her entire defense. Judge Judy ruled swiftly. Miss Sims would receive her full $300 security deposit, $400 for the disposed television, $100 for the missing PlayStation 3 return of the basketball hoop return, of the weight bench total judgment, $900. The landlord's counterclaim for damages, dismissed completely. But the most uncomfortable moment came after the verdict. The landlord continued insisting the tenants left behind trash and chaos. Miss Sims fired back emotionally that they simply hadn't finished moving yet. Then Miss Shea muttered bitterly, "I thought she was the kind of person you could trust her word." Without missing a beat, Miss Sims replied, "Be careful who you rent from." And just like that, the courtroom drama ended. One woman learned that being a landlord does not place you above the law. The other learned that even messy tenants still have legal rights. And everyone watching learned the same brutal lesson. Never touch a tenant's property until the lease is officially over, because one wrong move can turn a security deposit dispute into a courtroom disaster.